All right, God bless you all. Hope everybody's doing good. Last couple days, I've been extremely blessed. I know that I've put several videos back to back. Appreciate everybody that's watched them. I hope they've blessed you. I hope they've helped you catch more fish. I hope they've helped you thank the Lord Jesus more, because He is the reason why we even have fish to begin with. But been coming to mind the transition that we're getting ready to go through, and I know a lot of us struggle during that transition from summer to fall. Believe it or not, this is the time of year that starts to get me excited, and I know a lot of you is like, excited? Why? I mean, this is some of the hardest fishing there is. Well, it doesn't have to be. And what I've learned over the last several years, I'm not a professional. I just love going out and just catching fish. I'm gonna share in this video because what you have to understand is sometimes the reason we have it so hard is we make it harder on ourselves. We don't even realize it. I made a little video a couple months back that the biggest reason why we don't catch fish is probably pride. Pride in we like to stick to the same baits over and over and over again, and then pretty much what we don't realize is that we either catch fish or we don't catch fish. We're not really trying to catch fish. You say, well, sure I am, I'm going fishing. Yeah, but what you're doing is you're taking a nail and you're taking a screwdriver and you're trying to best to drive that nail with that screwdriver, and even though it'll work for a little bit, it doesn't really get the job done. So a lot of us have our favorite baits, a lot of us have our favorite things to do, and that is what causes us to sometimes not be successful. I mean, just being honest with you. I've learned this through my own life, learned it through my own experiences, and we'll try to talk a little bit about the fall time and what happens during the fall, okay? My number one bait during the fall, and you have to understand, we're going to talk about this just a little bit. All these baits are based on conditions, okay? That's the biggest thing about fall fishing. Biggest thing about bass fishing altogether is it's all based on conditions. It's based on your wind. It's based on your clarity in the sky, whether it's sunny or a cloudy day. It's based on your water clarity. In crystal clear water, it's going to be a little more difficult. You need more of those cloudy days. Sometimes your bite will only be early in the morning to about 11 o'clock. Then you have to change your tactics a little bit, unless it's one of those rainy blessings of a day, like I had the other day. But what you need to understand first is the bait fish. And you say, well, I'm bass fishing, not bait fishing. Well, the bass are concentrated on the bait fish. The reason a lot of us struggle so much during the summer is because sure, every now and then we run across them, but truthfully what we're doing is we don't realize that during the summer, those big bass, the majority of them, a lot of them, especially smallmouth, they're out chasing around big schools of bait. They're near the bait because they know it's going to be a hot, hard time, just like us. In the heat, most of us are sitting at home. We like being close to the kitchen. We like being close to, why? Because we like having the water and everything close. They're the same way. Well, this is getting ready to be fall. Fall, things change a little bit. Fall, fish are scattered everywhere it seems, and that's all they're doing. But our problem is we want to continue the same baits over and over and over that we used all summer. Some of them will work, some of them won't. This is probably one of the most important times of year to focus on bait fish. And it doesn't matter whatever type of bait fish that is in your body of water. A lot of us are real successful in a smaller body of water or smaller lake because we kind of have an idea and we kind of trap fish in a bowl. But when you get to those bigger lakes like Lake Cumberland, around me you got Wood Creek, Laurel, all those bigger ones. Any of those bigger lakes, those fish are around those bait fish is what they are. That's what's keeping them there. So let's talk about a few baits, but we have to get our mindset around that because these baits that I'm getting ready to show you, they go with that, Okay, so they depending on the situation, depends on which bait you use. Okay, so my number one, I tried to separate them here a little bit. Anytime you set rods together, you know what happens. A lot of you know you probably don't have this problem. All your rods are always nicely organized. Number one bait I use during the fall. Number one. This is what I start off with in the mornings. This is always laying on my deck during the fall because of what I just told you, because of that bait fish. It doesn't matter to me if it's super sunny. It doesn't matter to me if it's cloudy outside, if it's raining, if it's not raining, if it's windy, if it's not windy. This rod is always on my boat deck ready for me to use. And that's the Topwater. And I'm going to explain to you why. Anytime I see any type of breaking of the surface, because this is the time of year that this is going to happen a lot, all of a sudden school and shad are going to come up. These shad are going to be in these big balls, and these fish this time of year, they know, and they start running up these schools, and it's going to happen more and more frequent all the way up to that water that I've noticed gets down to that 55, 60 degrees. 60 degrees is really a cutoff. Most of the lakes right now are about 82 degrees around where I'm at. So from here to 60 degrees, it's going to get more intensified every day you go along. That topwater becomes a big deal because as soon as you see a break of any type, it may be only one little, two little fish flipping on the surface. All of a sudden, next thing you see is other fish busting through them. I promise you those aren't little bluegills trying to just eat little minnows. Those, most of the time, are spotted bass, smallmouth if you have them, and largemouth, chasing schools of those shad, whatever kind it may be. If you don't have this on your deck ready to pick up and cast, you will be heartbroken. It's amazing how all of a sudden they'll come up, and all of a sudden you throw over there and work this bait and just twitch that little walking bait through them, and they'll absolutely destroy it. Okay, this is like I said, the number one bait that I use this time of year, because it is absolutely amazing. The fish that I've caught on it, it's amazing, just the explosions. Even if they miss it, it's an adrenaline rush to use that right there. But all that is Sammy 100, and it's just a walking bait. Okay, throw it out, twitch it a couple times. There you go. That's my number one. Now, after saying that, I'm gonna share this with you. My number two bait, that if I throw that right there, I like it when it's slick calm. When there is no ripple on the water whatsoever, I'll throw that topwater and work around points, which is where I'm gonna spend 90% of my time. You say, man, you talk a lot about points. Well, that is usually the biggest concentration of bait fish. You need to pay attention while you're driving around your boat. You need to be looking around for little flickers of shad. If they're on the main points, if they're on the back of in the middle of the pockets, my experience usually is their main points, main lake. Sometimes they'll be on secondary points, but in my experience, they're usually on that main lake. Here's what you got to remember. A lot of people don't think about this. What we want to do is we want to keep doing what we were doing during the summer. What were we doing in the summer? We were throwing a big 10-inch worm. We were throwing a 1/2-ounce jig. We were throwing a shaky head. We were throwing all these slow-moving baits that are dragging along the bottom. Are we going to catch fish? Sure, we can catch fish. Even me, like I like throwing the Ned rig and different stuff and drop shot. Guess what? This is not the time of year to start off with those things. Why? Because most of those smallmouth, spotted bass, and largemouth, you know what they're doing? They're looking up and they're chasing that shad because they know the season's getting ready to come. They are made and designed to where they know, hey, that temperature's changing. It's going to get cooler. The more relaxed they get, the more they want to feed up. The more they want to, that shad, little by little, it's not time yet, but that shad is going to start little by little struggling more and more and more because the water gets colder and colder. So that topwater bait there is the best imitator there is for an injured bait fish, other than one other, and we'll talk about here in just a minute. Okay, so That's what I'm doing, is that right there. If it's slick calm, that's what I like. Now, if there's chop on the water and I see them busting, that's still going to be an awesome bait, because like I said, it's on the surface. They feel like it's already pinned. They don't know, they think they've already stunned it. They think that little bait fish is up there struggling, so they're going to absolutely attack that little fish right there, that little bait fish, okay? Number 2, and this is probably, honestly, one of my absolute favorite baits, okay? But especially in the fall, during the winter and spring, but right now we're talking about the fall. This is the old spinnerbait, okay? And I use a couple different trailers, but the old spinnerbait. Why does the spinnerbait become such an amazing bait in the fall? It's because of what we just said. It's all about bait fish. A lot of people like throwing the Alabama rig because it has so many different little baits on it, catches a lot of big fish. I personally have thrown it for a little bit. I don't care too much for throwing it because it wears my shoulder out throwing that big thing. But I like throwing the spinnerbait. What's the big deal about a spinnerbait? You know, a lot of people's like, well, I like a crankbait during the fall. That's fine too. In the fall, you can use that little crankbait right there. That's a DT6, awesome little bait in the fall. Same thing, it's going to imitate, and it's moving, it's going to imitate some type of little bait fish, okay? But here's what you got to understand about a spinnerbait. Spinnerbait's got a little bit different drawing power than that crankbait does. That crankbait will work, but the spinnerbait draws a little bit different fish. Because of these little blades on here, a lot of times when I'm reeling it and popping that rod tip, it's swirling around. That looks like there's one little fish moving. This looks like there's several little fish moving. When they see all that flickering and that flash and everything, all they see is a little small ball of bait fish. So they come, and then they come attacking this one. I have had them hit my blades before, but they'll come attacking this bottom one right here for the same reason. They're on shad, they're on. So here's the thing. So you're sitting there and you're thinking, so what you're telling me is, I just need to pick up moving baits and I need to go. That's exactly what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that this is the time of year that you don't want to sit still very long, unless you find those schools of bait fish. Now, if you get onto a point or you get onto a section and you've got fish busting every which way and you catching them, or you see some break over here, throw over to them. Throw over to them with the spinnerbait, throw over to them with your topwater, throw over to them with that little crankbait if that's all you got in your hand. Anything you can get over to those moving fish. Why? Because they're after right now bait fish left and right. Okay, that's what they're after. That's what this time of year is all about. It's all about the schooling bait fish, live schooling shad. A lot of people struggle this time of year, and I did for years, because you want to keep throwing those slow moving baits that you did months ago. Now, if you have a point that you got to, that you caught 3 or 4 on because they're up schooling, and you feel like, man, I just feel like there's more fish there, then by all means, take that little shaky head, take something, throw over there to that point, work that little point. But if you don't get a bite within a little bit, then you need to keep moving. Why? Because you're going to run into more. A buddy of mine years ago and me were out fishing. This is his first topwater experience, really. He was out and he's throwing topwater bait. Big explosion happened, fish came up, I reached, grabbed the net, nabbed him. He was like, oh my goodness, that's so much fun. I was like, yep, that's topwater bite for this time of year. We went to another point, fish started coming up, he threw that little topwater over there, twitch, pow, something came up, grabbed it. About a 3-pound spot. Threw it back in, twitch, pow, had a 3-pound largemouth. All of a sudden, what'd we do? Sun came out, fish went down. I threw all kinds of little baits, couldn't get a bite. The only topwater that was working was his little walking bait, okay? So then what happened? He's like, well, let's go back here in the back, and so we left that point, let's go back here in the back. All of a sudden, happened to look up, cloud cover came over. I mean, it was just like a completely dark cloud just came over. I was like, we need to go back to that point. He's like, what? We just got here to this little section. I was like, I'm telling you, we need to go back to that point. He's like, okay, let's go back to that point. We went right back out to that point. Sure enough, we weren't there just a few minutes. All of a sudden, the shad started breaking again. I said, throw that topwater back out there. He's like, man, I wish you'd throw this bait. And I was like, look, you're having a great topwater day. Just trust me, it's fine. Just throw out there and catch you another one. He throws his topwater out there, twitches it a couple times. That little school comes up. He throws right in the middle of them. Bam, another 3 or 4 pound largemouth. Absolutely amazing day on topwater. Why? Because that's what fall's about. Are you going to run into those situations? I can't guarantee it. But what I am telling you is that if you'll focus more this time of year on these baits that I'm telling you, learn how to use them, learn to look for those things. If it wears you out, like it does me sometimes, this next little bait we're going to talk about, then just set it down beside you and only use it every now and then, okay? So far we got 2 different baits. We got topwater, we got spinnerbait. Spinnerbait or crankbait, my preference is the spinnerbait. I do have crankbaits tied on because it depends. If you get like the little gravel bar or something like that, that little crankbait bouncing around, even though it's a bait fish, but bouncing around on that little bit of rock, sometimes will trigger a lot of fish too. More than anything, it's a cover bait. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a bait that's covering water, especially if that wind picks up. What's the third bait we're going to talk about? Third bait we're going to talk about is very, very, very dear to me in bass fishing. Okay, it's a jerkbait. Jerkbait is an amazing bait, but as I'm getting older, I can't fish it the way I used to fish it a lot. I've got several little videos about catching fish on jerkbait. Shoulder anymore though, sit there and twitch, and I've changed rods. I've had some of the best jerkbait rods they make. I've had different jerkbaits. It has nothing to do with any of those. It's just part of older age, just the way it works. I have those experiences some days on just spinnerbaits and stuff. Just the constant going on and on, sometimes it just wears a man out. Anyway, talk about the jerkbait for a little bit. Jerkbait becomes, if you work it right, it goes right to left, it has that injured baitfish look, okay? I'll put in right here that picture of that biggest largemouth that I've ever caught on a jerkbait, and it was a KVD 300. It's not the same color that I'm talking about, but it's pretty close. So that bait right there has those, I switch out those, it's just a regular stock jerkbait. It's got that clear on the inside, little purplish top, has a little stripe down the side of it, a little yellow stripe. Got that white little belly on the bottom. Just a very basic pattern. I switch out those hooks for those Mustad triple grips. It's a little short shank hook, size 4. Deadly little bait, okay? Talk to you just a second about a jerkbait. This is the part that a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with me, but it's okay. We all have our different opinions. This is just my experiences. Here's what happens. That walking bait, I prefer over top of a jerkbait. Problem is, they don't always want to come to the surface for that topwater bait. I've had several times where I've worked that topwater right over top of a tree stump, right over top of a point, nothing grabbed it. Or rode on it. All of a sudden take this little bait, throw it in there, twitch, and nail it. I mean, just destroy it. There's just some days that's how it is. So this time of year on, I'm gonna have this laying on my deck as well. Because when I get to those tree stumps, like I said, it's easier to throw that topwater bait over top of those stumps and not have to worry about getting caught up in the trees and everything else. It'll come right over those logs. but they're not always going to grab it. This one, you have to be a little more strategic in your casting, but they'll absolutely destroy this. Even in clear water, they'll destroy this thing right here, okay? You say, well, out of all the jerkbaits out there, why this one? Well, I throwed most of them. I've had the Jackal re-range. I've had the Dual Realis jerkbait. The only one I probably haven't thrown is the Spro one, makes one. I've thrown the Rapella jerkbaits, screw up throwing them. I've thrown some of the newer Rapella ones. They're okay, but those slightly sink. A lot of the newer ones do. I've even had the Mega Bass 110. Have I caught fish on the Mega Bass 110? Yes, I have. Have I caught more on the Mega Bass than I have any other jerkbait? Have I had astounding days, and I fished the thing for almost a whole year? Have I had astounding days with that Mega Bass 110? No, I haven't. Just gonna be honest with you. There for a while, it was the only jerkbait I threw. And I threw the shallow version as much as I threw the +1. And I threw it in the clear blue, and I threw it in the white, and I had a couple other colors. Did I catch fish on it? Yes, I caught fish on it. But did I absolutely just have between 50 to 100 fish in one day on it? No, I haven't. If I caught anything that I could say was just absolute, just monster on it? No, I haven't. But before I ever threw the Mega Bass, I did on this KVD. This little KVD jerkbait right here on a little lake before, and a buddy was with me to witness it. I caught well between 50 to, I don't know how many bass that day. I would have said it was somewhere between 50 and I'm going to say probably 70 fish that day. Somewhere in that mark, to where literally we were at this lake for probably 5 hours, 6 hours maybe, and I literally caught every cast. I was either getting a hit or I had a fish in the boat, and I was using the KVD 300. I was throwing it on 15-pound line, and at the time I was just working it just as fast as I could work in it. They were destroying it. I was picking up other jerkbaits that he wanted me to try, and I was throwing it. I'd make about 3 casts, never not get a bite, and I'm like, I don't know, they don't like this one as much. I'd pick up that KVD back up again, I'd throw it, and wham, another fish would grab it. So, and this isn't a lake where they even normally have shad in it, but they were absolutely destroying this jerkbait right here. I've caught smallmouth on it, I've caught spotted bass on it, I've caught them in the winter, I've caught them in the summer. I've got all kinds of fish on this jerkbait right here, okay? I'm not sponsored by Strike King. I'm not sponsored by any of these people. And I'm telling you that bait right there, it's amazing the walk that it has. It's amazing the cast, the way you can cast it into the wind. Are they the best built? I don't know. I personally have never broke one. I have bought one before that the little weight's inside. It has a little weight transfer system inside of it. It's not the flashiest. It's not the fanciest jerkbait, but I'm telling you, it works, okay? Another thing I'm telling you real quick about jerkbaits. Here's the reason why I finally quit fishing the Mega Bass and a lot of those other jerkbaits. Most other jerkbaits for instance, are very sensitive to the weight, okay? So you put too much treble hooks, too big of treble hooks, they'll sink. You put too light of hooks, they'll float up. My purpose on a jerkbait is a reaction. That's all I want to worry about. I want to go out, I want to go fishing, I want to catch fish. You have to have the exact rod, you have to watch your line, you have to have the exact hooks, you have to weigh the hooks, you have to go through all these steps to get that jerkbait. And then the hooks that you have to have on that Mega Bass are little small number 6 hooks. And by the time you get a fish stuck on those and you play him just right, and then you get him in the boat, it's like, boys, that's a lot of work just to catch fish. I'm not looking at a drop shot rig where I already have take my time with 8-pound line and all this. I'm not trying to get a bite because If it's a real hard situation, if it's real clear water, then guess what? I'm just going to throw a drop shot, or I'm going to throw the next little bait I'm going to throw you. I'm going to throw a little Ned rig, something that way, if the bite's that bad, okay? I'm talking about it's windy out, it's rainy, it's a cloudy day, it's in the fall. I know that fish are schooling up, they're after bait. I want something that when I get 2 or 3 pound smallmouth on one right after the other, I don't have to think about it. 15 pound fluorocarbon, okay? Just bait caster. You can throw it on a spinner rod if you want to. Bait caster, 6'8" rod. This is a St. Croix Mojo Bass. This is an actual jerk. This is their Jerkbait rod. It's got good tip on it. Guess what? When one hits it, it nails it. Am I going to lose fish? I got news for you. I've had all of the baits. I've had all the G-Lumen. I've had all the different type of rods. Fish are going to come off. It doesn't. Your rod setup and all this stuff is going to help you a little bit, but guess what? You can't stop fish from coming on, okay? It's going to happen. But that's my preference on that jerkbait. All I'm looking for, and what am I going to do with it? If they won't come up to that top water, I may pick it up and throw it on a point, twitch 2 or 3 times. If I've already established that, hey, the bite is slowing down just a little bit, I need to trigger some bites, then I'm going to first cast on a point instead of that top water. I'm going to throw that jerkbait over there and twitch. If I can't get one, then I'm going to keep going down the bank, or I'm going to keep going to the next one. I'd love to catch them on that spinnerbait every cast, because that bigger signal hook usually is a lot better. If I'm going down the bank and I see a log, I may throw it over there next to that log and twitch it right beside that log, see if I can get something to come out, react to it, okay? That's how I'm going to treat that jerkbait. That jerkbait to me has become a target bait. I don't work it like I used to go down the bank and just cover water. Anymore, it's a target bait. I'm going to throw it at specific things, just like you would a popper or something else. Spinnerbait, crankbait, those are going to be my cover water baits. When I get to a specific thing, I'm going to put that spinnerbait down probably, and I'm going to pick up that jerkbait and I'm going to throw it over the next to it, just like I was doing the other day. It's just style fishing. Now, here's the part that hopefully will help a lot of it. So what happens if I go out, there's no wind, sun pops out, it's, you know, bright bluebird day, what am I supposed to do that day? Should I just go down the bank and pick up my shaky head and pick up my jig and cover water? That's up to you. What I've learned and what I'm ready for this year is I'm still focused on bait fish. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up my spinning rod, light line, and I'm going to throw this little tiny swim bait. This is going to be the little bait that I start using when this time of year comes. How am I going to work it? Throw it out and reel it back to me. I'm going to work it a lot like I work that jerkbait. I'm going to throw it out, drag it a little bit, let it sink. Drag it a little bit. That bait's going to come through there. It's going to come down. It's going to be like it's dying. It's going to come up. It's going to go down. Am I going to catch monsters with it? I've caught some pretty nice fish on that little swim bait already this year. Just in a short time I've been using it. But I'm also going to have fun, which is the main reason why I'm out there to begin with. I'm going to throw this little swim bait and I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it. Now, what's the other little bait I'm going to do? Be honest with you, I'm probably going to throw a Ned rig too. Same thing with that little Ned rig. I'm going to rig it on the same little jig head. I'm going to throw it out and I'm just going to let it sink in front of things. You notice that out of all these techniques, not very many of them am I dragging around on the ground. Most of them's moving up. Why? Because my belief is that those fish are staring up this time of year more than we realize. There are going to be days that, yes, that jig and that wobble head and all them little things are going to work great. But this time of year, you need to be covering water because those fish, and you need to keep attention. So it's not like you're staring at the bank, you're just going down the bank, bam, 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 bam. No, it's you better keep your ears out listening. You better keep your think. When you see something happen, when you hear a splash, when you hear something this time of year, you better peek your head up, you better look around. Because they'll break and start busting. A tell you what's happened to me before too. It doesn't have to be 15 fish coming up and attacking one little school bait fish. There's been times where I've been going down the bank and come around the point, and all of a sudden I hear one little splash, and I look over, and all there is a little 1 foot by 2 foot little circle. You see little rings. Pick up that topwater and throw about 2 or 3 feet past it. Work that topwater, and bam, 2 or 3 pound smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, one of the 3 come up and just destroy that topwater. You say, well, how in the world? Because this time of year, I'm just telling you, I hope I've gotten that point across. They're after those baits. You came home today and you found out that, hey, your meals are going to start getting cut short. You're going to have to start watching we eat a little more. Food's going to get scarce. What would you do? You'd be like, well, guess I'm headed to the grocery store, because if I'm not going to have a cook, then I'm going to have to start stocking up on all these things that I have. You're going to start stocking up on chips, Chef Boyardee cans of ravioli, spaghetti, and all this stuff. That's just how guys are. We're going to be stacking up on all this stuff, right? Guess what? Why? Because we want to eat. Because we know that, hey, winter's coming, we better get all this stuff ready. We're going to can all these vegetables, can all these things. That's what we're doing, right? Well, those fish, they don't have that ability. So what they're going to do is they're going to start stocking up as well. God has designed them to where they're going to start stocking up on all these bait fish. And a lot of the times people struggle. Are you going to have struggles days? I'm just going to tell you, you are. You're going to have days that you may not get and find fish anywhere. I've had them. But if you'll focus, I've learned to focus. If you'll focus on that bait fish activity. I'm not telling you to go around chasing every school shad there is. It drives a man crazy. What I'm telling you is that use baits that cover water. Use baits where you're looking for those different things. Pay attention when you see things change. And you'll be amazed at how you'll catch fish. You'll be amazed how you'll be blessed with a lot of different little fish. Anyway, hope that made sense. Hope it helped you. Like I said, this is just my suggestion. These are just my few baits that this is the time of year that you can really have those days where you catch a lot of fish. I know spring's favorite to a lot of people, but I've had a lot of good days in the fall as well. The difference is you're gonna have to work at it. Like I said, I don't spend a whole lot of time in the back of the pockets. I just don't. I spend a lot more time on the main lake this year. You have to remember that fish this time of year, they're moving around a lot. They're getting ready to go to their winter type sections. So anyway, God bless you all. Hope everybody has a great day. Thank you all, everybody, for watching the videos. Thank you for sharing them. Thank you for all your prayer requests. Pray God blesses each one of you. You all have a wonderful day. If you need anything at all, just message me. I'll try my best to help you with what I can. If not, I'll definitely pray for you and ask the good Lord to provide your need. Don't forget, Jesus loves you. Y'all have a great day.